Hi, Bryan Hancock here for today's latest episode of the Timberchase Wealth Brief. Today we are going to talk about vacation homes. Should you buy a second home? A second home is a wish for many families, and it comes from a healthy place. More time with the people you love. At the same time, buying a vacation home can introduce financial pressure, logistical complexity, and sometimes family friction. Here is a practical framework and a set of considerations we often see families weigh as they decide whether a second home is worth exploring. The real benefit to a second home is relationships and family time. A second home can become a gathering place that may mean longer stays, more frequent visits, better family traditions, and more unhurried time together. If you have the money to buy a vacation home, and this is what you want to do with your money, it can be a wonderful experience, but it is good to be aware of potential trade-offs of owning a vacation home, some that may not be so obvious. One reason second homes can be tricky is that some people mentally file them under an investment. Sometimes that's reinforced by hopeful math, as in it will pay for itself, or we'll rent it out when we're not there, or real estate always goes up. It's possible for a vacation property to appreciate meaningfully, but it's also possible for it to be a drag on your net worth at the same time, especially when you account for all-in ownership costs. A planning shortcut is to estimate the annual all-in cost of owning a second home at roughly 5 to 10% of the home's value, with the higher end potentially reflecting a fuller accounting of opportunity cost on equity. This range isn't a rule, but it can be a useful starting point for estimating your true costs. For example, if someone is considering a $2 million resort condo, a rough planning estimate at 10% would be $200,000 per year in total carrying costs, including opportunity cost. That number can sound jarring, but it tends to be the kind of figure that gets families asking better questions. What's typically inside that 5 to 10% estimate? Taxes and insurance, repairs and maintenance, utilities, internet, security systems, furnishings, and the constant replenishing of the owner's closet, property management and HOA fees, travel costs, time costs, and the most significant is the opportunity cost of the equity in the property, or in some cases, the interest on a loan. A question that families can find clarifying: what else could we do with the same amount of money? If the goal is family time, one useful reframing is, if we didn't buy a second home, what would we do instead to encourage the same relationships and memories? Some families find that renting a vacation home accomplishes most of what they want without the long-term commitment of ownership. In other words, instead of asking, can we afford a second home, you might also ask, how much connection could we create if we kept the flexibility and invested the difference? What about a rental program? Many second home buyers look at short-term rental income to offset costs, and sometimes that can work well. At the same time, renting out a vacation home is often more like running a small business than people expect. Check out our list of potential friction points here in our linked article and make sure the hope of renting out your second home is not a mirage. A practical tip for some families is to test drive before you commit. One strategy we see that helps with a vacation home decision is progressive renting before purchasing. It's a way to gather real-world data on usage, family interest, and logistics without locking yourself into ownership. A simple test drive path might be rent for 2 weeks, then rent for a month, and then try an entire season. And if after those 3 steps you still feel the interest and the need to buy a second home, then proceed. This can help answer practical questions early and sometimes helps a family decide an all-in commitment is not worth it. When buying a second home for family reasons, it's common to picture it becoming part of the estate plan, a place that stays in the family and gets passed down from generation to generation. That can happen, but it also can get complicated. Shared ownership across siblings and spouses can put pressure on families around scheduling, financial priorities, managing the property, and what to do if somebody wants out. If the property rolls into the 3rd generation, is it practical to think that cousins owning a property together will improve or detract from their relationships with each other? These types of arrangements can plant seeds of discontent, resulting in uncomfortable relationships. There is a quick decision checklist you can use as a filter in our linked article below. A second home can be a meaningful lifestyle choice, and it can also be a decision that's easier to regret than some people expect, especially if the ongoing cost and complexity are underestimated. If you're considering buying a vacation home, it may be worth running the decision through a planning lens: cash flow, opportunity cost, flexibility, and the family dynamics that come with a shared gathering place. If you'd like, we can help you evaluate how a second home might fit into your broader financial picture in a way that's aligned with your goals and mindful of the trade-offs, or evaluate how your current vacation home will impact your future estate plan. This is Bryan Hancock. Thanks for listening.